Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is IRSYADUDDIN bin Zulkifli. My Matric Number is 057066. And today I'll be talking about Islamophobia in the movie of An American Mosque, directed by David Guzman. Before we indulge ourselves into discussing about the movie itself, let us first know the meaning of the term Islamophobia. As we all know, Islamophobia is a term that combines two words, which is Islam and phobia. Now, let us know what is the meaning of phobia and how it's correlated with Islamophobia. Merriam-Webster Dictionary mentioned that phobia is an excessive, sometimes unjustified, and nonsensical dread of a certain thing, set of entities, or scenario. This is further explained by Garcia that mentioned phobias are situations where people go through severe and constant struggles to dodge their phobia's triggers, which they bumble to overcome their irrational dread, even though they realize there is no risk or hazard. It usually involves particular items, circumstances, activities, or people. Ali explained that throughout current history, there has been a peculiar fear that has engulfed the American people, which is Islamophobia. For almost a generation, studies, legislation, and entertainment are already fiercely scrutinized on the issue of Islamophobia. According to Ali, Islamophobia is an act of prejudice, bigotry, and the forced removal of Muslims from cultural, economic, and public engagement. The deed originates from damaging assumptions that lead to extreme dread, irritation, and detestation against Islam and Muslims. Now that we know what is Islam and phobia and the Islamophobia term itself, let us further have a surface or a brief session of what is movie exactly, or is called in another term as electronic literature. As cited by Electronic Literature Organization, electronic literature means using standalone or network computers as tools and settings to incorporate pieces with significant literary elements. Blugis also explained that electronic literature is digital-born literature, a first-generation digital item made to read on a computer. It is accepted in society and isolates digitized physical publications. Electronic literature is prose or text of literatures worth developed in digital media that go outside printed language. These words are born digital as opposed to text that has been digitized or written digitally. Now, let us dig further what is the situation in America regarding Islamophobia. Iverson explained that as a result of growing mass migration and Muslim existence in diversified countries, ideas like Islamophobia take hold and are put into reasoning to justify actions taken by non-Muslims against the Muslim disposal. Islamophobia manifests through a range of manifestations, including conventional Western Christian ideas and the Occident versus the Orient. This interaction resulted in standards favoring the majority against minorities being upheld, establishing inclusion and exclusion as well as hegemony. Power structures influence Muslims' access to religion of freedom. Next, let us hear the summary of An American Mosque by IMDb. IMDb states that in a small Californian hamlet, the issues of religious liberty and the fight against bigotry are shown through an American Mosque movie. We see how a farming community responds to hatred via difficult but eventually productive dialogues about the impressions of Islam in America and our obligation to preserve anyone's fundamental freedom to pray, fueled by the demolition of a mosque. There are a few literary devices that are used in the movie, but first of all, let us know what is the meaning of literary devices. Matt explained that literary devices are tools writers employ to express ideas, give their writing a unique and focused effect to help readers comprehend their work better. Similar to using persuasive language, it can also be used to persuade readers. In the movie, there are 3 scenes that can be highlighted where literary devices are used. First of all, in the scene where Salim Shahkhan, a journalist, arrived at the tragic arson scene when he said, "The only thing I see, just ashes. Their face is just telling when their dream is just gone." In this situation, hyperbole is used to describe the dreadful condition of the mosque resulting from the arson and the expression given by the Muslims after seeing the tragic incident. Next, in the scene where Khalid Said responds to the media asking him pertaining the tragedy, he says, "How American do I have to be an American?" Irony is used to describe the situation faced by Khalid Said after seeing the destruction of the mosque. Last but not least, there is a scene where Mahmoud Dean replied to Larry Montema's statement of agreeing with a previous argument. He said, The biggest justice that could be served on the individuals that did this would be to see the new mosque populated on 8th day with hundreds of people having wonderful, joyous time. Foreshadowing is used to explain the responses given by Mahmud. The reason I choose this particular movie is because it is based on true event which happened in Yuba City, California in America, where this is the first arson case reported in America that a mosque is burned down to the ground by irresponsible people. This movie further helps us to gain better understanding of what Islamophobia had been going on in America, and this proof that even before the 9/11 incidents, Islamophobia had already been taken American perceptions even years before the tragic incident happened. Islamophobia that is portrayed in the movie can be seen a lot, where the Muslim community is being protested or rejected by a small community that does not want anything regarding Islam or Muslims living together in their nation, or to be specific, in the Yuba City itself. We can see all the protests, hatred, slurs, and even the arson tragedy that shows how this minority group detesting the existence of Muslims in the Yuba City. The challenges faced by Muslims in the movie can be seen where the freedom of religion does not happen to be present during the era. The freedom to express one's duty to their God or respective religious teachings cannot be expressed freely. The burning action of the mosque or arson is a definite evidence where Muslims cannot exercise their freedom of religion in the American soil. The issues that can be found in the movie is where the minority group refuse to sit well with the Muslims, even though the Muslim itself does not go reach out everyone and force everyone to be with them, or even forcing any other people to accept them. They are just living there peacefully. However, this small minority group that doesn't accept Islam or Muslim act out of their own accord to solve the issue themselves by burning the mosque to show that they are rejecting the people, or to be specific, Muslims to be there. To conclude, we all know that not all Muslims are evil and act extremely towards one another. There are a lot of good Muslims exist in the world where they are open to accept anyone to live together. Hence, the world itself needs to change and try to be nice towards one another. If Muslims can open their house to anyone, regardless of their gender, race, ethnic, or religious background, then why can't the other people do the same to the Muslims? Being a Muslim is not a sin, and being a Christian is not also a Muslim. It's not also a sin. Religious matter need to be handled by the religion itself. There is no one in this world that have the power to justify any religion to be subjugated to any kind of hate crime happen. Thus, Islamophobia is nothing but an agenda that is put against Islam itself and Muslims. That is all for me. Thank you. The solutions that can be proposed pertaining the issue of Islamophobia in the movie and also in America can be looked through their law enforcement, their media, and also their uphold of religion's freedom. First, let's take a look on the law enforcement. In the movie, we can see that the era in 1994 does not uphold such justice to the Muslim, because the law itself limits the justice that is bound to be served to the Muslim due to the lack of evidence or elements to put the person to trial. However, if the law itself can be amended to put in better terms regarding the hate crime faced by a religious group, then for sure a portion of justice can be served. And this does not only apply to Muslims but also other religious party themselves. Next, the media needs to behave on how they operate in the eyes of Americans. This can be seen where the media itself plays a huge role when putting perception of Muslims in the eyes of Americans. They need to know that not all Muslims are extremes, as such to be freely labeled terrorists. Hence, if the media can correct their actions by only label certain extreme Muslims as terrorists, the perception of Americans of other Muslims can be put in a good way. A good impressions need to be held for other Muslims to avoid any discrimination happen. Last but not least, the word freedom of religion itself needs to be fully used in America. If a Christian can pray freely in church without being raped or even disturbed, then it also must be applied to Muslim when someone is praying in the mosque or any kind of room that is served for the purpose for the Muslim to pray to Allah.